Welcome on stage, Roger Graell from Mango.
I had this perfect dream.
Thank you, Sarah.
This
The stage
dream
is yours.
was me and you.
Okay, so good afternoon to everybody. I hope you can hear me well. So I will be glad to share with you some of the insights that we have as a brand and the way that we see how we have to attract our customers and how we have to approach to the different markets that we operate. So the first one, it's just to give you some overview of who we are. So Mango, we are an international company with almost 3,000 points of sales across the globe. We operate in more than 100 countries, offline, and around 85 online. So really our vision, it's totally global. So we are a fashion company that must be able to deliver across the globe, or brand to distribute, to make sure that the customers in any part of the world can buy from us. And this global vision, it has been something that we really believe it from the beginning, and now with the e-commerce, we are able to reinforce this value proposition across channels. And this is what I'm going to talk to you about. It's regarding what's going on in the market. As you know, the retail business is changing very much. But what's really changing for us is the customer. So the reality is that our customers are changing right now. So they go offline, they go online to see your products. They buy online, but maybe they would like to buy offline as well. And they interact across channels, across devices. And this is a reality. I have been astonishingly surprised when a bit earlier today we have seen this with survey regarding how many of you are omnichannel, and almost 60% of the responders, they were saying that they are not at all omnichannel, or they are just a little. And the reality that we are seeing is that the customers are omnichannel, are multi-device, so they can connect with you through the desktop, they can connect to you through the mobile telephone, through an iPad. So, and this is a reality. And then our challenge as a brand is to make sure that we are close to our customer, that we are able to identify the customer across devices, and then we put the value of our brand across all the different channels. And most importantly, the big challenge is to make sure that we deliver customer satisfaction, making sure that we do the best from every channel, and we make all the channels work together to generate the best customer experience as possible. But this is something that we are seeing that the customers are doing. So we have to respond, and we have to be omni-channel because the customer is omni-channel. And always, our vision, most important thing is that above channels, above devices, so what really matters is the brand experience. So you have to be able to deliver a great brand experience, either during the process of buying your product, either the process of exploring your product, and most importantly, during operations. Operations is a critical part of the customer experience, especially on a B2C environment. And this is one of the challenges that we are facing now. So what we have to do as a multi-channel business is that, first of all, we have to make sure that we put all the channels working together to increase the level of service as much as we can. So some things like buying online, pick up in a store, then you have to allow to your customers, if they go to physical stores, to buy from the online business and get delivered at home, and order online, return in a physical store, it's another service. So, but so the integration of the services, it's one of the critical points that you have to work. Always to make sure that you offer to your customers the best experience as possible. What's clear is that from our point of view, the most point of sales do you have, the most physical stores do you have, or the stronger you become online, the stronger you will become as a brand. So cannibalization of the channels, it's not an issue anymore. It's just a reality because our customers are there using multiple channels, so you have to be able to be close to your customer as much time as possible during their customer journey. And this is really what we have to work on. So if we look at the big challenges regarding the multi-channel strategy, I think the communications, it's something that it's quite, let's say, old-fashioned already. So we are all very conscious that the communications have to be the same across channel. And really, the big challenge and the big opportunity as well is to make sure that we are able to operate multi-channel using the different channels to deliver the best customer experience as possible. So if someone can order online and pick up in a store, you have to find the ways to get this stock into the pickup point as soon as possible. Sorry. And so, and from our point of view, the development of this integration of the multi-channel operations business, they are going to develop further in the short future, and this is one of the challenges that we have to face. So whatever we do, we have to do because of the customer satisfaction is the must. Yeah. So when you think about, if you always think about customer, you don't care about channels, and this is our vision. So if someone is in a physical store, why not? If we are able to deliver on a B2C operations business, why they cannot order all in the physical stores and get delivered at home? So always think about the customer, think how you can increase the customer experience of your customer. And this is when we jump into the big question and the big opportunity that we all have regarding e-commerce, which is how we can deliver outside our country, which is, of course, one of the big opportunities that e-commerce is giving to us. So internalization, it's a challenge, but at the same time, it's a big opportunity. Now with e-commerce, the internalization has become still more important because there is global players everywhere. So you must be operating very successful in your own home country, like in Sweden. But the reality is that there may be some companies in continental Europe that are doing an excellent business model, and they can be here tomorrow with already a very efficient operations behind them. So the big challenge that we have now is to make sure not only that we integrate our channels to deliver value to our customers, but as well that we're able to adapt locally to your customer needs. And this is the big challenge of the internalization, that we have to look into it. So when I think about the internalization of your product, of course, that if we always have the customer in the top of our mind, we can think about the product assortment. So is your product right for these customers? As you know, the weather in Sweden is not the same as in Spain. Spain is hotter today. So then you have to think about, okay, what type of products my Swedish customer will like? Okay, that's the product I'm going to highlight in the Swedish web page. Maybe if you are doing business in Saudi Arabia, then the product show there have to be slightly different. You can use the same collection, but you can sort differently. So you always have to adapt your your business accordingly to the market that you operate. So other things that you have to see is the brand guarantee and the price policy. Okay. So if you always have your customer in the top of your mind, then you have to make sure that the brand values are represented efficiently, either on the website, either on the operations behind the customer, the buying process of an online business. And this is really the big challenges we have when we go abroad. And then something that I think is extremely interesting, it's when you think about, so which are the big opportunities behind going to another country. So finally, when you think about your customer and you go to another country, you have to think how I can generate value to this customer. And the way of generating value when you go abroad is to localize your business as much as possible. I think localization is one of the most interesting topics regarding e-commerce, because so every time you go abroad to sell something, what you really try to do is to localize your business. Localizing doesn't have a limit. So the limit of localization is personalization. Yeah. So when we started selling in Sweden online a few years ago, 6 years ago, then the first thing that we realized is that the Swedish, you speak your own, you have your own language. So let's try to localize the language. And then we realized that you were using different payment systems. So then let's work with the payment system. And then finally, what you have to do is to adapt your business into the local market as much as you can. And doing that, the limit of this is the personalization, which means that for every customer, you are going to get the right product, the right payment method, the right language, the right customer service, the right delivery systems. So everything localized as much as you can. Of course, that when you work really global, you have to think about your efficiencies. So you have to try to localize and becoming efficient. You cannot just localize on a crazy way. So you have to localize step by step. But this opportunity that we have right now with the personalization of the content allow you to localize efficiently using automatic systems to make sure that what one customer see, it's on the right way that she wants to see. And customer care, returns policy, this is something as well that you have to personalize depending on the customer expectations. So the reality is that there is some markets like Germany where people are really used to buy a lot of things, return a lot of things, because the way of buying online, it's like this. In other countries, like in South Africa, return rates are very low because people are not used to return items when they buy online, because they know that the return can be complicated, so they don't have this attitude. So then the big challenge is to make sure that in every scale as possible, you adapt your business locally as much as possible. And some examples of localization that I want to share with you, it's Russia, which is a big country, which is very close to Sweden, where people are so they have their own payment system. Almost everywhere, everything online, it's paid on cash on delivery. The courier services are different as well, because they like to deliver at home and get the returns made on the delivery. On the delivery courier, you can return your parcel to the same courier that it's delivering you the parcel. And of course, that it's better if you ship from Russia, because otherwise you can got some custom clearance issues. So every time you go to a country, try to understand them quite well, understand the way that they buy, and adapt locally. Yeah, another good example, it's regarding Russia. It's the cash on delivery. Other payment methods are very convenient as well, and of course you have to operate in Russian. If we go to another big country, big opportunity for the Swedish products that I think they have a high quality in general. So it's China. China, it's a totally different market. Localized, so payment, it's something very local. They don't use credit cards because Visa doesn't operate as they do in Europe. The social networks are different. Of course, language is different. The couriers are very efficient. So delivery, it's not an issue in China if you operate from China, especially. So wherever you go, you have to try to understand the market and then make sure that you deliver the customer experiences in this specific market. So if I try to summarize our vision, it's quite simple. So the first thing is regarding the customer. So we have to put the customer above everything, above channels, above devices, and try to do anything we can in order to generate value to these final customers. Then if we want to adapt our business locally, then try to understand the market where we go and try to adapt our business to the local market. We cannot do the other way around. So we cannot go to one market and think that the customers in this market will adapt to our way of doing business. So if you want to be really international, we have to go to a market, understand the market, and then adapt all our logistics or customer service or website to the local way of doing things. And if you work as a local in every single player, you have more chances to succeed than if you don't adapt your business at all. And from my point of view, this e-commerce growth that we are seeing all over the world, it's really delivering a big opportunity to be close to our customer everywhere they are. So now with the explosion of mobile navigation, so we can be on the customer pocket on every single day. If we are able to have a mobile website that works well, that works efficiently, and that downloads quick download, especially in countries where maybe the internet connection is not as fast as in Sweden. And the final message is quite simple. So always think first about how good this will be for your customers, and then you will realize that if something is good for your customer, it will be good for your brand. And always putting the brand above everything, above channels, above devices, to make sure that the customer value proposition is the same across channels and across devices. And this is really what's our vision regarding the change, which the change is here. So the customers are omni-channel. So if we want to be always close to our customers, we really have to be an omni-channel company. But taking into consideration that was really matter is the brand, and then the channels, it's just the door from which the customer enter into our brand. Okay, so that's it. Tack, tack, tack. Yeah.
Any questions from you guys?
Yeah, I'm just curious, because you have a background in maths and statistics, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So how have you used that in, like, concretely, practically at Mango?
Well, I think e-commerce, it's a very good space for maths. Finally, so an e-commerce sphere, it's a store, it's an environment where you can track everything, transform everything into data, and then use this data to optimize your business. There is one phrase I like very much. It says that everything that you can put into data, you can improve. And luckily on e-commerce, you can put into data almost everything. So now the use of the data is becoming something that the companies are using more and more to generate value to your customer, to personalize the content, to understand what your customer is doing, and finally to optimize the customer experience.
Sören?
Yeah, I will just jump on that data track wagon and just ask you, so who is your organization is doing, the organizational gathering and the process for data, and how are you getting the online data out to your offline stores?
That's a very interesting question, because the use of the data, it's one of the area of further development in the next few years, and making sure that we do the use of the data across channels, it's one of the big opportunities that we have as retailers. There is a huge amount of data that we collect from our e-commerce business. Of course, that on the physical stores, and luckily we don't have as much data as on e-commerce, but we, every time we have more and more data coming from the physical stores. The big challenge is the understanding how we can use all the data coming from the e-commerce together with the few data that we might have from the physical store to generate value to our customers in the point of sale. It doesn't matter if it's online or if it's offline. I always say the simple example. So what it will happen if you go to a physical store and you try one product, if the store is able to identify you, maybe some of the sales assistant can say, oh, this is the dress that you have on your shopping bag or on your wish list online. So why you don't want to try it as well, no? So the potential is huge. Then the big challenge is the execution of the use of this data in the real world. Yeah? I'm sure that it's an area that will continue to develop in the next few years, but I'm sure there is a huge opportunity behind that.
Speaking of data, still, how important, based on the data, is free delivery in an e-commerce business? I notice you guys have like a minimum. So how important is free delivery?
Well, I think free delivery, it's always welcome. Yeah? We like everywhere. It's not only in Spanish attitude. Yeah? So everybody in the world, we like free things. So I think free delivery, it's a good value. But at the same point, it can be dangerous, because if you offer free delivery to everything, maybe someone is buying you a sock and they want a free delivery of a sock. And that's not a good business for any of us, no? So I think that You have to of course, to be very competitive on the offer that you give to your customers. You have to be fair. So I think if someone is buying you for value of 10,000 Corona, I think it's fair to give this order by free. We have a very competitive conditions across in every single market where we operate. We always want to be as good as the best local players, which is not always simple because there are players that are extremely aggressive. But really, I think you have to generate something that it's understandable for your customer and it's good for your brand. So you have to try to find where the limit is and make the things as easy as possible for your customers to buy from you.
Roger, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
coming.
Sarah.
A big hand for Roger.
Thank you.
Start the celebrations.